We have learned so much from industry case studies and franchising outlook in the respective countries through sharing from our brilliant speakers and panelists over the last 2 days. But what's next on the drawing board for franchising as a whole? The final conference highlight of FLAsia conference is future-proofing your franchise business. The keynote session featuring Mr. Joe Canterbury, founder, FLAsia Global, will be moderated by Ms. Rachel Kelly, Money FM 89.3 presenter, SPH Radio. Over to you, Rachel.
So over the past 2 days here at Franchising and Licensing Asia, we've discussed the current state of play in the industry, how to protect your brand, as well as rising trends in the franchise arena. And now it's time to look forward and find out how you can future-proof your franchise. Well, to get to the answers, I'm joined by conference keynote speaker and seasoned international business executive, entrepreneur and investor with vast experience expanding iconic emerging consumer brands around the world, Joe Canterbury, founder of FLAsia Global. Joe, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Rachel. It's a pleasure being with you today, virtually, but hopefully that will change soon as we're starting to see travel open up.
And speaking of meeting virtually, Joe, I mean, COVID-19's really changed the way that we live, work, and play. What do you think are going to be the biggest franchising challenges or themes as we look into 2022?
Yeah, Rachel, it's kind of hard not to, start off with what is increasingly becoming kind of an all-consuming problem that we're all feeling in our personal lives, that businesses all over the world have been dealing with for a bit of time, and that is the global supply chain issues. I wish there was a quick fix coming. But I think the reality is it's going to take a while to work through these issues. They're obviously global in nature, and and it's impacting all parts of the business. So I think that's one, and that'll continue being a big issue. And then I think the second one, and this is impacting countries very differently, of course. And that is, that's the vaccination rates and rollout. So whereas, if we just look at Southeast Asia, whereas Singapore and Malaysia have achieved, fairly high levels of vaccination rates, it's quite a different picture in Indonesia and Thailand. And so I think that getting through those vaccination rates and then hopefully be able to manage other variants that come. I think for some countries that's going to be a big issue because that's going to have a big impact on borders opening up, and everything from store openings to construction.
So, Joe, you've mentioned, obviously the supply chain issues, COVID-19, vaccination rates, and as you quite aptly said, there's no clear, quick fix for all of these issues. But what are some of the things that businesses can do to tackle these challenges?
Yes, I think there's I think there's a few things, particularly as a franchise, as a franchise business, and it's going to depend quite a bit on exactly your industry and your segment. But I think one is trying to do everything you can now and the coming months to be able to source more locally, and this may already be on process. So a lot of the franchisees are still able to import various things, either because that's been the best option and or it's been mandated by franchisors. So I think really trying to push about more local sourcing, and that's both talking with the franchisor, but it's also really focused on trying to find more vendors. I think that's one, and I think another big one is really being smart and strategic and how businesses and franchisees are dealing with some of the labor challenges that will also be continue being quite a challenge in the coming months and next year.
And speaking of labor challenges and some of these other issues, let's talk about the push to digitalization. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, it's changed the way we live, work, and play. I've even been conducting my children's medical consultations via teleconsult, which is something that I wouldn't have thought to do 2 years ago. It saves such a massive amount of time. 1 hour for a consultation, medications delivered at my door in comparison to 3 or 4 hour wait in a clinic. So how important is this push for franchise owners to digital when it comes to tackling these issues, both on the manpower front, but also in terms of sourcing and supply chains?
Yeah, I think so. Rachel, this is the other, very big theme that's frankly is here to stay. And I would actually start with just the consumer. On the one hand, as you've experienced and I've experienced, we've all experienced, we have all developed new habits over the last 18, 24 months. It's in many ways, it's just accelerated things that are already starting. But as we've all developed these new habits, be it telemedicine, be it more e-commerce shopping, in many ways, there's no going back. And then you layer in that the younger generation, millennials and Gen Z, which are already digital first, that group is just growing. And it's already a particularly large group in many markets across Southeast Asia. And so I think it's absolutely critical to the absolute fabric of the business, the consumer experience, the cost side going forward. And so I think it's probably one of the most important things that's being prioritized, and hopefully it's being prioritized by the franchisor also.
So let's look at these key themes then when it comes to future-proofing your franchise. We've mentioned digital, you've mentioned local partnerships. What are some of the other things that franchise owners should look at as we enter a post-pandemic world, or, as we almost hear on a daily basis, the new normal?
Yeah, I think there's one clear theme that was already important a few years ago and is only going to accelerate. This is particularly for retail, but also food and beverage. It's going to be really integrating the physical store experience with the online and digital. So we can call it omni-channel, call it as the Chinese would call it O2O, but this, having a presence in all of the relevant e-commerce, social media, and physical stores is going to be so critical. It's going to have a lot of impact on how you go about developing your stores in the future. And I think, the other, related to some of the labor challenges is there's going to have to be, and it's already starting, continued investment in automation. And we're already seeing some major franchisors and brands, and be it in a quick service retail, starting to make major investments in automation. It's all been accelerated. Being able to adopt these and be able to smartly make these investments will also be critical. And then at the same time, balancing with your talent and your employees and your culture.
And let's not forget other major trends as well, like sustainability and ESG as well. That's another big one. But Joe, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. There's just so much to cover on this front. But in terms of future-proofing your franchise, key takeaways: go digital, omni-channel, and partner local vendors as well. Well, Joe, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel. Enjoy the discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel and Joe, for the very interesting and candid conversation. With that, we have come to the end of FLAsia 2021. On behalf of the organizers, we would like to thank our distinguished speakers, panelists, sponsors, and exhibitors for contributing to the success of this event. To our audiences, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to tune in with us for the past 2 days. We would also love to hear your thoughts on the conference. So feel free to share your feedback via scanning the QR code that will be appearing on your screen shortly. Please stay tuned by following us at franchiselicenseasia.com for more updates on future events. Stay safe, keep well, everyone. We hope to see you again in person on the 27th to 29th of October 2022 at Marina Bay Sands. See you.